Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, let's get it right, Arwin, Adam, Sleeping Warrior, Ruhif, Ranty Flat Earth, Jose, hello, Jazzaconda, James, Issa, and Alan. How the hell are you all?
Good afternoon.
Lovely.
Good afternoon.
We're all good. I want to take the mantle for a minute. In the break in the background, Ruhif has challenged Ranty on the basis that Ruhif claims that Ranty would not be able to make these observations in 6 months' time. Warm water, cool air, yes, in big capital letters, it's all loomed up. Right now, you've got cold water, well, it's warm enough to paddle in, warm air, high lapse rate, excellent refractive conditions. Right, so the question becomes, would you accept it in winter if we had a clear enough day and Ranty just managed to see 20 miles?
Well, hang on. First, let's just clarify. So he's saying that this is all loomed up. It's not really there. That's essentially what he's just said.
Yeah, he's saying it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram that is hidden by the horizon, which is the bulge. We can't actually see it. It's not really there. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena hologram.
Right, but all he has to do is say you're looming. It's looming, and everyone goes nuts. Yeah. It's like
it's the worldly television.
Classic as hell.
Oh, I just want to laugh at the guy. Ruhif,
it's the worldly television screen.
Winter as well.
Surrounding you.
Well, it is winter now, isn't it?
What?
It's winter, champion.
Can I put forward?
I don't care if it's winter there. Would you accept it if you got it in winter?
I would. The big question is the differential between the air temperature and the water temperature. And in December, that differential is
negligible.
Hold on, why is that a factor?
We'll
hold on, why is that a factor when your refraction is calculated using the radius of the Earth as part of the equation and doesn't have any factoring of those conditions in your standard model?
Yeah, and it's approximation, right? 7/6 hours approximation.
Nope.
Right, so you've got an approximation based on a presupposition. This is all meaningless nonsense based on models, Ruhif.
No, refraction is based on the lapse rate, so the temperature differential causes a density.
That's really nice. That's not what you do, though. You take an approximation based on a sphere Earth radius at 7/6 of that radius. So don't tell me about what lapse rates do.
It's a band.
I'm going to tell you what lapse rates do.
Well, who cares? Your refraction is 7/6 of the Earth radius. It's called terrestrial refraction, and you apply it to a presupposed radius of Earth. It means absolutely nothing in relation to lapse rates.
Looming and refraction are band-aid theories.
Yeah, what we've got is a guy who's trying to do what Mick West does with his little clever link. Look, lapse rates. Look, actually how you calculate refraction. Oh, right, so what's this 7/6R bit? Oh, that's just an approximation rule of thumb. Oh, really? So why are you talking about lapse rates?
It's highly variable.
Oh, so you're going to vary it based on the lapse rates. So you start with the presupposition of a sphere Earth. You then extract out 7/6R of that from the sphere Earth, so your presupposition now has another begging the question fallacy on top of it, and you're going to adjust that begging the question fallacy based on actual data of lapse rates. Wow, this sounds really scientific.
It is.
No, it's not. You idiot. You've fallen down the rabbit hole of nonsensical idiocy, Ruhif.
Nathan, can I speak to you about this?
Yeah, you saved Ruhif's bacon. Go ahead.
Rufus, however you pronounce that. Rufus.
Ruhif.
Yeah.
Yo, he got that name in high school with all the roofies.
Fuck off, dude. I'm doing my best fucking chance of it, okay?
No swearing.
Rufus.
No more swearing, Jazz. Come on.
Yes, Jazz.
All right, dude. So what you were just saying is... What you were just saying. Fucking go ahead.
Oh, that's it. That's your last one.
Right. At the moment, the water is much colder than the air. So you've got relatively cool water and warmer air. That causes a very high temperature gradient. That causes a lot more refraction.
So what? You have terrestrial refraction. That's your refraction, mate.
Yes, it is.
Right, so this has sod all to do with terrestrial refraction.
You bastard.
What are you talking about, Nathan?
Yeah, your refraction is terrestrial refraction, yet you are detailing a different type of refraction and how to calculate it. It has sod all to do with terrestrial refraction, though, which is what you apply to your fantasy ball.
No, hang on, he's missing something. What Ruhif doesn't understand is the citation that Mick West gives for the 7.6R bears no resemblance whatsoever to what he claims it's based on. He's applying a geometric 7.6 of the radius of the Earth to the sphere, right? But what he's claiming it's based on is the things that you're telling us is the authority for how Rancy's seeing this stuff. However, he's saying one thing but doing something completely different, and you're too dumb to realize it.
You know what? I just realized something. Something pretty significant, and that is that if everything is looming up over the curve, which could be suggested that that is the case, then the same would count for the night star sky at night. It would also be part of that looming up until the horizon. And it's very strange because if that was the case, then the bottom part that is nearer to the horizon of all the stars that are visible would be highly compacted, because the more you look straight up, highly compacted.
That's
because the more you look straight up, then that looming effect would no longer apply because it's straight up dead ahead.
Correct.
At 15 degrees
So,
over the horizon,
if there was looming of everything above the horizon, the same would apply to the stars, and they would be highly, highly compacted. And as the stars would rotate at night, that would be distinctly visible.
Yeah, we can measure the refraction of stars. It's less than half.
No. I'm not talking about the refraction of stars. I'm talking about the looming effect of everything over the horizon. That would apply to the entire star heaven at night as well.
But they do apply it to some extent, though. 15 degrees.
Yeah, but to some extent, but how much? As
15,
much that...
Well, no, they take into account Snell's law at 15, anything below or above 15 degrees of the horizon, they take into account Snell's law. When they calculate, because they do calculate, they do take this into consideration. If you look at, like, I read from Nathaniel Bowditch's American Practical Navigator, and they take into account Snell's law when looking. That's why they don't navigate off of stars that are 15 degrees below the horizon, because it's essentially inaccurate.
Right, but the problem is
they can be refracted by about half a degree.
So is that inaccurate enough that it is as if looming, instead of being over that curve that we can never see because we always see it loom upward? Does the star heaven consistently loom up the same amount?
Close to the horizon, yes.
Yeah, no, but does the entire star heaven compact itself and loom up enough?
What do you mean enough? Close to the horizon, yes, it can refract up about half a degree.
Half a degree? But that's not how much everything is looming up into this apparent flat plane. It's looming up a lot more. a lot more than half
How
a
many
degree.
degrees
It's
are
a
it?
huge angle
many-
change. It's a huge,
How many
huge physical
degrees
angle
are it?
change that is actually happening
How many
always.
degrees are it? How
Well,
many degrees?
Why are you asking him to calculate how many
How about
degrees?
5 to 10?
Well,
It's
he's
not half
making
a
the
degree.
claim, Nathan. He's making a claim that it.
He's
that it
not.
Oh, you're
equivalently-
making it.
You're making the claim, Ruhif. This is your bullshit model, and you're asking him to fantasize about how much it should loom up on your bullshit model.
Yeah, I told you it's half a degree near the horizon.
Right,
Yeah,
you
but
are the one
it's
that's
not
claiming it's
looming up half a degree. It's much
Well,
more
how
than
much
half
is
a
it
degree
looming?
looming up.
Okay, so you are
It
making
should
a
not
claim,
be visible,
right?
and it's all
No,
visible,
the only one
looming
making
way, way up there.
The only person making a claim here is Ruhif, not Arwen.
Yes, and I've said half a degree, and Arwen says more.
Who cares? You're claiming it's bending up from behind a curve. Well, show us that curve.
Yes.
Show us that light does what you say it does. You can't. You explain it and explain
I've made videos.
Who
I've
cares?
made 2
You can't
videos on
prove it.
random depth observation.
You can't
You
prove
think
it.
that half a degree of looming angle change would be enough to loom everything back up over the horizon? You're not really all there, Ruef, because that is not enough. It should all be hidden. The angle difference between what we see because of the looming and what should not be visible there is much more than just half a degree. It's a ridiculous assumption.
Can you do really, really basic trigonometry?
What has that got to do with it? We're talking
yeah,
about
Ruef,
basic
hey,
angles,
Ruef,
of what should be visible and not.
Here's an interesting point for to make your point, Ruef. It's like this. It's like what I could see where, in a sense, what is proposed is the idea that if we recognize that below that horizon level, like with the stars, there is this looming or refraction, component. The idea is, I think it's hard for some people to wrap their head around. Is the idea that, how could we see something that would be below the horizon over a flat plane? Like, let's say if it was below the horizon, how would it be able to, like the only explanation for them to be able to say that something would be that far away and looming above or looming up is because of the sphericity of the Earth. Do you know what I mean? It's like that weird conundrum of,
Okay, Arwen.
But I'll let you go on with trigonometry.
Yeah, Rohit.
Yeah, Ranty's observation. How many feet of looming would there be to show it on a sphere?
That's not his assertion. I've just said this to you. Your assertion is we're on a sphere, Ruhif. So if you want to go away and calculate this, then go and calculate it. But don't demand it of him. He's trying to debunk your nonsense and saying it doesn't do this. He's not saying it does. You're saying it does. So you don't have to make him do it.
I know, but I got this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Ranty, how high is that? How high are those hills and those mountains visible in that footage?
I'm not sure.
Well, we're talking about Devonshire Dockhole.
How high is what, sorry?
Devonshire Dockhole.
167 feet.
How much of Devonshire Dockhole should be hidden, Ranty?
All of it.
Right.
Yeah, how much is that?
It's all of it.
It's all of it.
167
How high is
feet.
it, Ranty?
It's 167 feet.
167 feet. How many feet are there in 18 miles?
It isn't 18 miles, it's 19.1 to that.
Well, that's better. 19 miles.
Right. So let's try
100,000.
to get an angular size on the mountain in the
I
picture.
want you to tell me what angle it has to loom by.
Yeah, that's why I'm now going to size up the angular size. Ranty, can you present one of those photos?
Why? Who cares? Right, we actually see this shit. It's not a hologram, Ruhif, which is what you're asking him to calculate. How much of this hologram can we see, right? Because we can't actually see it.
Ranty, can you present?
Hold on, Arwen. Let's just get it pegged what we're doing. Let's just get Ruhif to peg what we're doing. We can't see these buildings in Ruhif's mind. Therefore, we're now going to calculate how much of a hologram we can see, aren't we, Ruhif?
Arwen has claimed that the looming is more than half a degree.
Ranty,
you are claiming it is looming. He is not claiming it is looming. He is putting that position forward to debunk it. If you want to claim we can't see it, it's not really there, this is just hologram looming, then you go away and calculate stuff based on its angular size. And when you asked Ranty how much is missing,
videos on this,
when you
Ranty,
asked
can you take
Ranty how much was missing, you did not account for the angular size reduction because your maths excludes perspective.
You're a fucking idiot.
Oh, right, so it's descending to this, is it? The ad hom swearing of Ruhif being demolished. Your calculations exclude perspective, Ruhif. So, when you asked Ranty how much was hidden, you asked him for an orthographic calculation of absolute sizes. You did not account for the bulge we don't see being in the near foreground and having a greater effect based on perspective. You omit this because you're a perspective-denying zealot. That is what you are, Ruhif.
Don't forget fantasists.
Ask me if I deny perspective, Nathan. Ask me.
I don't need to ask you. I can tell you that the calculations that you apply ignore perspective. That's a fact.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fact. So, you perspective-denying zealot, the question you asked of Ranty was not satisfied by the answer given by the calculation that Ranty referred to, because it excludes perspective, something we absolutely and unequivocally see. You can see it in these wind turbines. They get smaller as they get further away from you. You idiots, yeah, you call it curvature because you ignore the virtue of perspective, Ruhif. That makes you a religious zealot.
Ask me again if I ignore perspective, Nathan. Ask me again.
I'm not asking you anything. I'm telling you, your calculations exclude perspective, Ruhif. I'm not asking you anything.
He's not asking, he's telling.
I am telling you. Yeah, telling you that your calculations omit perspective. They don't include it because they call perspective curvature. It isn't. Right. It's perspective.
Ruhif, what are you actually doing here? Because this should all be gone. This should all be gone. Right? Literally
and
all
Arwen.
Yeah, I still like to entertain his theory for a moment and get the angular confusions out of the way. That's what I want to do. I know
he's asking you to measure something that is not there, Arwen.
I'm entertaining him.
Entertaining what? It's farcical. He's asking you to measure something that is not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says this is looming. No.
He says it's not there, Arwen. He's now asking you to get an angular measurement for something that's not there.
No, but you can do it. You can then see how much of the angular size is basically being displayed theoretically.
But it's not there. It's not being displayed. We don't have a line of sight with it. There's a curve in the way. It's physically not there on his world. Yet he's getting you to calculate angular sizes. Right, it's farcical.
Why can't I just disprove a theory using theory? Why do we always have to go back to the blatantly obvious? That it's
because we're in reality. I don't want to disprove a theory with a theory because we live in the real world.
Why not? Why not?
Because we live in the real world. Listen to my answer, Arwen. We live in the real world. I see these buildings. They are there. His assertion that it's a hologram is ridiculous. I don't want to entertain that ridiculous notion.
We can never talk about
I want to take a big fat fish, Arwen. I want to take a big fat fish around Ruhif's face and slap him around with it and say, we see these buildings, idiot. They are there. It's not a hologram. It's not looming. You're an idiot. That's what I want to do. You want to entertain his fantasies and I don't.
Getting in the way of Nathan's fun. He's only got an hour and a half left.
Let's bitch slap this retard. Oi, retard, Ruhif. They're really there. We do see these buildings, idiot. You see them? They're on screen. You want to tell me they're not there? You're an idiot.
They're not there, Nathan.
They are there. I see them, you idiot. Everyone watching can see them. You say they're not there because you're a retard globehead with a religious belief.
I've never seen anybody as stupid as that. They're not there.
Really? Yeah, because he's a complete retard. He is so devout to his globe religion that he will literally tell my audience these buildings aren't there.
Yeah, and I'm actually trying to disprove that it is even theoretical.
I don't need to disprove it, Arwen. They're on screen, for the love of God. Why do I need to disprove his assertion these buildings aren't there? Just look at them. They are there, I assure you. They've been there every time he's pictured them, every time he's took a photograph of them, from every single elevation, from every distance. We see them. They're there. I don't need to disprove it with another theory. Just look at them.
Yeah, but I can. I can disprove the theory.
So can I. By asking people to open their eyes and just look on screen. See those chimneys? They're there. See those buildings? They're there too. See all that stuff? It's there. If he wants to assert that it's a hologram, I'll just say, no, it isn't. It's really there.
I don't even know what I'm doing here anymore.
Wants to know what angle is it there?
Yeah.
What angle is the stuff that's not there, right, Ruhif? You wanted to send it into chaos and farce by confusing the reality of the situation. We see this stuff because it is there.
Yeah, we know.
No, the audience doesn't. A lot of the audience thinks they live on a bloody sphere, Arwin. Yeah, we're appealing to the masses. Ruhif represents the dumbass masses.
Yeah,
well,
but
you represent the
he is
dumbass
thinking
masses.
with his eyes closed, and he's thinking about his theory. And I'm going to then break down the theory.
That sounds like
it can't be possible, and I can do it. I was trying to do it, and you're obstructing me for freaking 10
go on,
minutes.
Arwin.
You just need a couch.
Go ahead. I'll shut up. Go ahead, Arwin.
Ruhif could lie down, and you could tell him all, psychoanalyze Ruhif's angular misconceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
just
saying it's only half a degree off. That's not how much off this looming is supposedly. That's not how much it is. It's way more than that. So there is an inconsistency between the angular displacement of the heavenly bodies at night and the supposed looming of everything visible at the horizon in the day. It's not the same type. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. It's inconsistent with each other. It's not the same effect. It can't be the same effect. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just breaking down more very sloppily stitched seams on your Frankenstein theory.
How much are these buildings looming?
All of it. All of it.
Yeah.
A great amount.
How much numbers?
Size, a great amount. But I wanted to ask Ranty to get back to the footage, but in a zoomed out version.
But how much do you love
roughly size up how big these buildings are in the field of view?
Hold on, he's got a question. He needs an answer. How much is looming? He's asked you, and if you don't know the answer, I'll tell him as well. Someone else on the panel has told him. All of it.
Yeah, 160 feet.
I want to know the percentage of how much they take up in the view.
No, a feet is kind of an actual size thing. We don't get that sort of... Because we've got viewing angles to it, Ruhif. We don't actually get an actual size because we have a reduced viewing angle being very low. So we can't really use these feet and inches terms. They're kind of baller terms to exclude perspective. These actual size terms, they're kind of meaningless when we're looking down a camera. It means nothing, your feet and inches measurement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the angular size, Nathan.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, right. Well, what do you want it for? We just see the stuff. You want to see the angular size so you can tell us how much isn't there? Is that what you want it for? But you're going to get Arwin to calculate the angular size, are you? We don't need to calculate the angular size of something we see, you idiot. We just see it and go, isn't that nice? You see it.
Nathan,
hold on, just let me get my point across. I see it and say, isn't that nice? Ruhif sees it and demands that I give him an angular size so he can tell me how much I don't see of it. How much it's not there. How much it's looming. How much it's a hologram. So he's going to demand of me and Arwin that we give him the angular size of something that we can just look at and go, isn't that nice? It's just there. No explanation required. Oh, well, you must explain it because it's not there on my model.
Yeah. I know you love winning, Nathan.
We are missing the point here. The only one assertion that needs to be addressed is the one assertion that Ruhif made, which is that it is all looming. None of this angular size calculations or whatever matter. The onus is on Ruhif. No, the onus
does matter. Yeah, it does matter to compare it to the looming of the heavenly bodies at night. So you can prove that it's not the same effect, even theoretically. That is the point I was trying to make.
Arwin, Ruhif is the one that's making the assertion that it's a hologram. He's the one that's got the burden to prove that it is. Not anybody else to prove that it's not. He's got to prove that it is.
Yeah. And now you guys are arguing about whether or not there's a freaking angle, Arwin. Do you not see the trap that you just step your big foot in?
No, I know exactly
what
I'm
you don't,
doing
but
here.
you're hanging dangling from the trap, trying to be like, I can explain.
Ruhif sat here with a massive smile on his face, Arwin. Come on.
I'm entering the realm of theory and then tearing it apart.
And you're now swinging in the tree going, I can do the math. Like, really, but you don't recognize it because I don't know why.
I'm entering the theoretical realm and then showing where it is inconsistent within the theory itself.
We've got a picture of it, Arwin. We don't need to enter the theoretical realm. We've got a
picture. That is showing something to somebody that has their eyes closed. That's how you do that.
Get him, Arwin. You go get him.
You can't just rip somebody's eyes open if they refuse to see. You got to enter their mind.
That's why I brought up the
You got
couch.
to enter the realm of theory to actually get to them, to show them that their theory is even theoretically
as the
incorrect.
viewer,
One day they'll understand you, Arwen. One day.
as the viewer, you're looking out over the scene there across to the buildings and stuff. They have a diminished height from your point of view. That value
an angle
is the actual, value, what you visually see, across the water. It's diminished, like that paralleling, your eyes bringing things together. It diminishes the angle, it diminishes the height of the object that's at the distance or the target. So it's
Correct.
the diminished angle of your view that needs to go in the calculator. It's what you actually see at a distance. It's called the diminished view, the diminished angle. And that would work.
I'm just
Exactly. The thing you're looking at has a reduced height because you are viewing it with a reduced viewing angle. So it appears to be more squashed. And this is being demonstrated continually by Ranty.
Yeah. It's really interesting. While we can all talk about the vacuum of space, of that in spacesuits and how it's supposed to work and how rockets are not in space, and we all know it's not there except for the ballers. I am not allowed to enter the realm of theory and actually disprove something.
Arwen, let me change topics slightly. Last summer,
at
the end of last summer, the original observation of Isle of Man came out, and the challenge was to go back and get the observation from the beach. And I said, I'm not going to get it in winter because the visibility is not good enough. I'm going to wait till summer. I went back in summer, I got the observation that was asked of me, and it's still not been accepted that the observation satisfied the request. My question is, if Ranty went back and got a 20-mile observation in some point in autumn, would Ruif accept it?
I would like Ranty to go back in December, which is on average the biggest temperature differential the other way.
So hang on. So if I get at least one footage of this every week of December, so at least one time, right? So 4 times throughout the month of December, that will satisfy your argument for this being loomed.
It will show that refraction happens.
Hold on now.
So there's no point in me doing it then, is that right?
No, Ranty, the thing is this, right? I have footage where I took, I have footage from identical locations at 2 times of the year. And at one point you could see like 20 miles, you could see these buildings coming from, at the time we're from New Jersey. And when I went in the summertime, when I went back in the wintertime, I could not get them. Now, granted, I would say watch what time of day you go. Try to maybe make that the same or something like that. But yeah, those refraction things are accepted. Sure. The point is that now, like, let's say like this though. Let's say, how about this though, Ruif? How come if in December, let's say he's not going to be able to get that shot, but in the summertime he can? So wouldn't that prove that essentially if he can get them and the land that is behind it, then wouldn't that mean that it's not necessarily curvature because it should be not there all the time, right?
We're just trying to demonstrate looming. When he goes back in December, the buildings will either be, well, probably be more obscured than they are now, which will demonstrate that where they are right now.
What about the land behind the buildings?
They're not obscured at all.
It keeps going.
It's not obscured anyway. So
hang on. The only person that should be demonstrating the evidence of looming is Ruif, not Ranty.
Yeah, and I've made 2 videos on Ranty's exact observation.
Yeah, and it was all maths. What we're asking you to do is demonstrate looming, and that means even if you could show something moving its apparent position, you've still got to show that there's a curve that it's looming from behind.
Then you just don't follow my videos. If you don't understand the video, that demonstrates looming.
No, you've not understood my point.
What?
Even if we give you the calculations and the apparent moved position, right, you've still got to prove that there's a curve that it's moved around to reveal itself.
Oh, yeah, but you wouldn't do that with this experiment.
Right, so what value is the experiment?
Prove the curve otherwise.
Well, hang on. If the buildings have been loomed, how come the bulge in front hasn't been loomed up as well, proportionately?
It's not as far away.
Right. So, by your reasoning, we should see the bottom of the mountains above the buildings.
By the math.
Yeah, but if it's all looming, we should see the bottom of the the mountain that's behind Barrow and Furnace. That should be loomed up higher than the buildings, correct?
It will be stretched, I think. Is it stretched?
No.
Stretched or compressed?
There's no stretching.
I think about that. I think it's be stretched slightly.
Yeah, but there is no stretching evident in any of the footage that I've taken.
Yeah, not that you can really measure.
That's just the stardust in your eyes, Ruhif. It's dark matter, actually, guys. It's just dark matter that propels the light over the curve to make it look like it's not stretching. But what angle would that be at, Arwen? What angle would the dark matter have to hit the light?
Yeah, sorry, I don't find anything about this amusing at all.
Me neither.
It's poking fun on a basic level.
Yeah, I don't find it funny either. I've got to agree with Arwen. I don't find this amusing.
Chill,
you know,
not being so serious.
Yeah.
We've
I can actually go into the theory and disprove that.
I can actually go into McDonald's right now and get a Happy Meal.
Yeah, but you're just sending it into farce, Issa, and I don't find this
I'll have
amusing
some onion
either.
rings.
And an ice cream.
I'll have an ice cream.
Yeah.
My point is, let us not be too serious about the idea of whether or not dark matter is propelling light over the thing, right? I mean, you can take it as serious as you want to, but then you might need a couch, right?
No, but hang on. I think we need to take it serious when somebody tells us that we can't see something that we all actually can see. It's not really there, but the burden falls on the gentleman making the claim. You need to prove that A, light bends the way you say it does, and let's just say that for the benefit of everybody that it does. Let's say it happens. You've got to still show that it's bending behind a curve. In other words, prove that shadows aren't really shadows.
If you accept that light bends, then you accept looming.
No, because it requires the curve to bend around.
He's so good, Ruben. You're so good.
No, he's not so good. He's trying to bullshit people.
No, he's so good because you bought the bait. That's all. But keep swinging.
Oh, maybe.
Even on a flat plane. Even on a flat plane, if you look up at an angle, it will loom.
Right, but
That's
that
really
looming
nice.
is still subject to radius. It's still subject to curve, and you can't prove the curve. So I'll give you looming. I'll give you looming, but you've got to show me the radius that it's looming round.
Yeah, that's not the point of this experiment, or not the point of this demonstration.
Oh, really? We've got something called terrestrial refraction at play, and you're claiming refraction is at play here.
I don't see why you guys don't see this. We got a much
We
better.
should be able to see marine searchlights and lighthouses. Their light bend around the curve a bit there from the side, shouldn't we? And from buildings and stuff.
If
Well, not-
everything is looming
Then
up,
why not do
if everything is looming up onto the horizon, then so should the star heaven at the horizon.
They do.
No, just
They
just
do.
one freaking. It's a half a degree. You just said that's not that same amount.
No,
That's
up to half a
minute
degree.
angular size. That is
We're not talking.
Yes. So the question for you, Arwen, the question for you is how much do these buildings need to loom up to be seen?
They don't. How many times, Ruhif, you're starting to piss me off, right? We don't need to loom them up at all to see them. We do already see them.
right.
Do the trig, Arwen.
Take the theory.
Why are you saying do the trig? Right, Ruhif, acknowledge what I've just said. Just listen to what I'm saying, Ruhif, please. For the love of God, right? We don't have to loom them up at all to see them. We already see them. They're already in the picture.
Arwen is claiming more than half a degree.
Yeah.
Not anything. It doesn't matter what Arwen claims. They don't have to be loomed. We already see them. Nothing is obscuring them.
Do you guys want the answer? I've got the answer.
No,
We don't need an answer. We haven't asked a question. We're just looking at some buildings. You've come along and said these buildings aren't really there. They're looming. Now you're asking Arwen to calculate
They're
by how
loomed up.
much.
By 0.1 degrees.
Who cares?
Who
Yeah.
cares?
0.1. That
Prove
is
it.
just amazing. That is practically insignificant. That is no
Correct.
looming at all.
Correct,
Well,
Arwen,
you know
correct.
what?
Actually, hang on, wait.
If you can see a mountain at over 200
Wait a
miles
second.
away, then at a clear night, you know how much stars you would actually get to see because of the same looming effect at the horizon? Almost 1/3 of the entire other half of the globe of the heavens.
Shout out
That
to
is
Proof of
all
Nothing
being
Perspective on the
loomed
calculator.
up into a flat set of stars at the horizon. That is what you would get to see with your looming. And that is the whole freaking point I'm trying to get across to you guys.
You need to go for a jog, Arwen.
Yeah, so angry.
Start a workout club or something.
Right,
You don't even understand what I'm trying to say here, are you? You just don't get it.
You just need to chill.
No, I'm trying to get a really solid point across here.
Arwen, but brother, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes, my brother.
Well, if it's all looming, then so should be the heavenly bodies.
With me,
and if everything is looming up to a flat plane at the daytime, then so should the night sky be looming up into a flat plane. And that globe of stars you see rotating around you at the horizon, it should also be flattened up into a wall of stars. That is what you would actually be seeing at the horizon at night if it was all looming around the globe. And that is my point.
Isa and I floated with the pufferfish.
Okay, let's get back on track. So on screen, Ruhif, you've had this presented before, but in a slightly different format. We've got these wind turbines, and when you calculate these wind turbines, they are falling around the sphericity of the Earth in exactly the way that the curve calculator says they should. So, I'm going to ask you, are these built on the curve of the Earth exactly as it would suggest they are based on the curve calculator?
Yes. Yes.
Say again?
Yes. I can't talk too loud because people are asleep.
Sorry. Okay, so according to you, because the curve calculator, which excludes perspective, says these are built on a curve, they are therefore built on a curve because the Earth is curved and these are curving around them in line with it, according to you and the curve maths.
His new name is Roofy. Everyone around him is asleep.
So, yeah, which excludes perspective.
Explain them turbines without raising your voice.
Ruif, do you know Bill Cosby?
I do. I do.
So yeah, so these are falling around the curve of the Earth based on the perspective omitting proof of nothing curve calculator. Right, Ruhif?
Right.
Okay. So we've excluded perspective, so we haven't taken into account the fact that the one in the distance is going to be smaller by virtue of distance. That's excluded from the calculator because we only take the actual sizes of each of these. So they're therefore all the same height and should be, in an orthographic calculation, all at the same height when we look down the line of them. That's how it works in an orthographic calculation. The main problem being that when we actually go from this, the z-axis, across to this, the x-axis, they are all, and I'll highlight them for the audience's benefit, we've got Ranty drawing a line across the top of the turbine for each that are in the row we have just looked down, which is the red line. By virtue of perspective, again, something I will highlight is ignored in the curve calculator, you can also work out the rest of the rows behind the row which is red in highlight. So they are absolutely, unequivocally not curving.
What's the red line meant to be?
The red line
is
this line that we have just looked down from the z-axis. So we're now looking at the z-axis from the x-axis. So we've gone 90 degrees to the viewing location of these which, according to you a moment ago, were built around the curve of the Earth. Yeah? Well, they're not. Correct. They are absolutely level with each other. But the maths matches when you exclude perspective.
I don't know how far apart these things are. Like,
it doesn't matter. When you calculate out the maths for these turbines and you are looking at them from the z-axis, they fall away with you. They fall away from you in line with perspective. However, the amount that they fall away from you matches the curve calculations, which ignore perspective and would suggest that they are curving around the curve of the Earth. However, when you look at them on the X from the Z-axis, you can see that they are all built perfectly flat. They are not curving.
How far apart are they, Ranty?
0.33 miles.
So you're looking at what, 2 miles or 1.5 miles across?
2 miles.
That's like a pixel, right? So I'm meant to pick out a pixel on this or something?
You meant to pick out the curvature.
the curvature. So I'll go back, if I can, to the part where we see them down the line. And what you can see matches the curve maths. So if you calculate the distance for each of these and how much should be obscured and hidden and blah, 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 it all matches. But it ignores perspective in those calculations. So when you look down the line of things and you guys say, oh, look, how much obstruction on the bottom of these, and you factor in only the actual sizes, it ignores the fact that objects in the distance get smaller with distance. So you would assert, based on this only, that these are curving around the Earth. Obviously, the Earth's curved, they're built on them, and it matches the maths, therefore built on a curve. The problem being that when you look at them from the x-axis, and look at them side on, 90 degrees adjacent to this line that you're looking down, seeing the effects of perspective, you see that they're not built on a curve, as the calculator suggests.
Get on with it, Nathan, I understand. But you're asking me to look at a left to right image, 1.5, 2 miles, and the drop from left to right will be like, what, 2 feet? Am I meant to
No, we're looking at this from 11 to 13 miles, I think, or 10 to 12 miles.
Yeah, but once you go side on, you're looking then left to right.
Doesn't matter, you don't see curve in one axis only, you absolute retard. If they're curved, they're curved. If this is conforming to the curvature of the Earth, then they curve. And you will see it on side profile. It doesn't stop curving, does it? You idiot. It stays curved if it's curved. And if at 9 to 11 or 10 to 13 miles, it's curving because it's built on a curve, then you expect to see the same curve when you look from a different angle. The problem being that the calculator, which excludes perspective, doesn't seem to show perspective anywhere being accounted for, says they're curving away from you. And it matches perfectly with the maths. However, if they're curving...
How many...
If they're curving, and they're not.
Are there 5 or 6 red ones?
Why are you now asking me questions? I'm telling you this. I'm not asking you to ask me anything. I understand what I see, and I'm telling you, if you are to assert that when you look down the line of wind turbines, they are conforming to the curve of the Earth, and that is why they are dropping away from you, then ultimately they must be curving.
You're asking in this second picture.
I'm not asking. Open your bloody ears, man. I'm telling you, they don't curve. Yet the calculator, when you look down the line of them, says they do.
Yeah, and that's z-axis curvature. You're now asking for x-axis curvature here.
No, I'm saying that when you look down the line of them, they are curving according to the maths.
Yes.
Yet when you look side on, they're not.
Listen to me. Listen. When you are looking down the line, you are looking more, a further distance, 11 to 13 miles. On this one, you are looking only 1 or 2 miles wide, looking for x-axis curvature.
No. They conform to a curve. I was very clear in my question. Do they conform to the curve? Yes, was your answer. If they're curving, they are curving. You will see the curve, this curve.
How far?
You are saying that this is a curve. It's curving around the Earth. Therefore, if we see them curving around the Earth, we will see them curving from the other axis. We don't.
You are looking further in this view than you are in the other one.
Yeah, that would be a virtue of perspective, something the calculator ignores completely.
Jesus, Nathan.
Sorry, did you just swear at me? Is that another sign that you're losing this argument, Ruhif?
Jesus, that's swearing?
I don't know, I'm asking,
Jesus.
Are you now swearing at me? That was a question. I'm asking you a question.
Well, I'm asking you, is Jesus a swear word?
It's blasphemy. So you are. Okay, so Ruhif is losing this argument and has decided to resort to blasphemy. Right, so this is curving around the Earth according to Ruhif, because his calculator says so when it ignores perspective. His comeback being they're further into the distance. Listen up, dumbass. Your calculator doesn't account for things going into the distance. It's actual sizes only. Do you get it, retard?
I don't think you get it, Nathan.
I don't think you've just acknowledged what I've said, retard. Acknowledge it. Maybe I'll start talking to you like a child and getting to repeat back some of the stuff I say. Your calculator, maybe it is time to get you to shut up and repeat stuff, hey, Ruhif? Repeat back after me.
Hold on, real quick.
Shut up, Issa. Shut up.
The point is this.
Shut up. Repeat after me, Ruhif. Alan's going to get kicked. Repeat after me.
Oh,
Oh,
that
it's
was
all
me,
the
that was
ballers
me, brother,
piling
that
in
was
to
me.
defend him, is it? Shut your mouths or I'll eject all of you while I get Ruhif, the retard, to repeat after me. The calculator does not account for the fact that these get smaller into the distance. It ignores perspective. Repeat after me.
It ignores perspective, and it should ignore perspective.
No. I didn't ask you to say it should ignore perspective, because that is your comeback when I say that the perspective omitting, proof of nothing, begging the question curve calculator says that what we see on screen now is bending in conformity to a curved Earth. And as you can see, Ruhif, you complete dumbass, it's not curving, is it?
I'm just counting. 1 second. That's 3. You made me lose count.
I'm not asking you to count anything. I'm not making you do anything except concede that they are not curving as the calculator says.
Yeah. You don't understand that when you're...
I don't need to be told what I understand, dumbass. You don't understand the world.
I've lost count again. Shit. Is it 4 or 5? Anyway, this left to right is like 1.5 miles. How am I supposed to distinguish like a foot of drop in between that?
Because we can see it on the previous picture. According to the maths, there's the drop that we can see and measure. Do you see that drop?
I just see that you're underneath the
Do
hub.
you see the drop? Do you see it, yes or no?
No, you can't, because I can't
sorry,
tell the difference
we
from
tried this
photo.
down earlier and you said that you could see it and it was conforming to the curve of the Earth, Ruhif. Are you a liar?
That's just because you're taking it from underneath the hub height.
Sorry, that would be a virtue of perspective again and an angular thing, not anything to do with the actual sizes of these turbines, which is plugged into the perspective omitting, proof of nothing, begging the question curve calculator, which we are destroying.
Broken record, Nathan.
Yeah, broken record ripping you a new asshole, Ruhif. Yeah? You ignore perspective and you've admitted it twice on this show. This, what you see now, is perspective. However, the curve calculator says it's curvature, and you agreed when I asked you. The problem being that when you look at it from the other axis, it's not curving. Telling me that the other axis shouldn't curve, but this one does, is utter nonsense, Ruhif. You can't have one curving and not the other. If it's curving, it's curving. The problem being that when you calculate it on this axis, you exclude perspective, which is precisely what we see. That's all we see because they're not curving. If you included perspective, you'd find your bulge gets in the way.
Nathan, could you share my screen for a moment?
I can.
Thank you. I've just got one question to ask Ruhif.
Yep.
Okay, so we're looking at these lampposts down a very straight road. And this lamppost to the side of this truck is about a mile away. How much is that going over the curvature of the Earth in comparison to this one?
A mile? Not very much.
But it looks like it's gone way over the curve.
Well, how do you get that?
Because it looks smaller and we're not dumbasses and retards and we're not blind.
You can see it. It looks
How
like
do you
it's
get
gone
over the
more.
curve?
It's kind of like the buildings that we can see, Ruh. If we just see them, open your eyes.
Why is it any different to the turbines from the same angle?
It's not. Both are just perspective in action. Because the one is at a great distance, the curve calcs say it's curving. Because it's not including perspective.
The curve calcs would say that this lamppost here, which is a mile down the road, is 8 inches lower than this one here, right? But yet,
And you expect me to tell that from the photo?
To the eye, it looks like it's about a third of the height of the one nearest to me. Would you know, this is a, so is that 8 inches gone over the curvature and you can tell that from an image?
No, you can't.
So can you apply it to the maths, or do you need to factor it into the maths? Would you be lying or being
the fact that it's 8 inches lower?
All right. So would it be disingenuous to say that this is 8 inches lower than this one here, when clearly you can see there's a massive discrepancy in height between the two, and you know that these lampposts are approximately 40 feet tall?
You guys are talking like you've just discovered perspective. Really?
I'm asking you a question. Why do you obfuscate the point? Can you not just agree
What's the
that things
question,
look different in the distance? They look smaller.
They're
Of
apparent
course they do.
size.
Yeah.
Right. But you would say that this has gone 8" over the curve.
What over that
Oh,
distance?
if that
Over a
road's
mile.
perfectly flat, then yeah, we're perfect level.
They do seem to be like installed plumb to each other vertically and not fanning out or, you know.
We're
spraying
talking
away
about
from each
a
other.
road that may not necessarily be flat or perfectly conform to the shape of a spherical Earth. So
But you
know,
would
we've got,
say this would conform to the curvature of the Earth. Would be your assumption.
if it perfectly tracked the spherical Earth, then yes, of course.
But why does it look a lot smaller?
Well, you'd have to angle each lamppost slightly away from the other. There'd be a little bit of a tilt to them.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say
away from each other.
I think what he's trying to say is that the perspective change in the apparent size is the most prominent feature of the picture, but the 8 inches of curvature over the claimed curve is minuscule. But what we're calculating for on the curve calcs is the minuscule bit, and we're ignoring the bigger part.
How about this? Why not just say, if you go back to those wind turbines, the picture with the lines, if you could just ask Ruhif, where is the curvature on that picture?
Well, what I'm
you
trying
can't
to say
see that on the picture.
What I'm trying to
Hold on.
There you
Hold
go.
on.
There
What do you mean you can't?
see it.
Right,
Hold
this
on, let's
truck
just
that's
compare.
perhaps-
Let's just do it for Ruhif's benefit. So this picture here, apparently that's not possible because we're too close to it. This picture here, though, because it's 11 miles away, even though we're seeing the exact same thing, they're both just falling away in line with perspective. But apparently this one, because the curve calcs say it's curvature, this one's curvature. Ignoring perspective, because the maths don't do that for a curved Earth, because they've got to ignore it, because that's what we're actually seeing, perspective. This is perspective, and this is perspective. But Ruhif says because this has got a label of 11 miles distance attached to it, this becomes curvature then. It becomes automatic curvature, even though it's not curving when you look at it from the x-axis. It's not curving at all. But 11 miles, yeah, let's ignore perspective and call it curve.
Oh dear, Nathan.
Right, and Ruhif, you would have to argue
was
that
was that fuck you, Nathan? Yeah, you're a religious zealot. I hope you like us ripping you a new asshole. You think you're smart, don't you, Ruhif?
He does.
Yeah.
That's the
Grocery
problem.
delivery boy ripping you a new asshole. Have you got a PhD or anything? You got smarts under your belt, little letters after your name that make you feel like you're clever, Ruhif. You're being ripped a new one by somebody you think's dumb.
Okay.
Tell me to fuck you again, Ruhif.
To be
Tell me
honest,
again.
Nick,
Say fuck you. Just demonstrate to the audience how badly you're losing, smart man.
Nathan, I think what's happening is he thinks he's better than you, but doesn't understand the point you're making and has to stay silent, and that's all it is.
Yeah, fuck you, Ruhif. You're a dumbass. And you're having your ass handed to you in front of a couple of hundred people while your cohorts laugh. While your cohorts laugh at you.
You're going to look back on this one day, Nathan, and
I'm going to look back at this and laugh at Ruhif and his stupidity. That's all I'm going to do, because I've got a very clear head and I'm making my point very concisely. Ruhif, on the other hand, wants to deny perspective and say that that's acceptable. He has said that on this show. And he also wants to deny perspective when it's in a close range and claim that it's curvature when it's at a distant range.
Right, but let's not go crazy over it. You know, that's my thing. It's like, let's not everyone lose their mind over these issues. These are just, you know, like we've been all brought up in this. Actually, it's a beautiful riddle that is for those of us willing to look it through.
No, it's not. It's not a beautiful riddle. It's a cheap trick, Issa. Very simple. All they've done is they've called perspective curvature.
Right, but this debate has been like, because we look at this outside the context of the space agencies and we look at the sciences of it, this debate was raging for thousands of years. And this is something where I don't think you know, that any one of us could really, you know, make these claims, because I could make Ruhif's arguments even and try to propose what the deductions of the academic position are. You know, there's reason behind them. The issue is it really does, it goes to a philosophical sense of your choice. And
no,
that's
it does not. It's flat. Water's flat. Those buildings.
How about this though? How about this though?
They're not looming and
Jimbo, how about this though? How about this?
Long term. No, you know, come on. Let's face it.
Jimbo,
Flat
how about
is
this
not
though?
about
How come?
philosophy. Water is flat. Those buildings are
Okay,
real.
hold on,
They're
hold
20
on.
miles.
What if
They're
this
not
is a
dreamscape. Look, you're trying to say it's a
what if it's
philosophical
completely
choice.
irrelevant?
I'm
What if it's
calling
completely
bullshit
irrelevant?
on that.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Absolutely, Jimbo. It's not a philosophical argument. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, and if you want to give me a just so story that says exclude perspective from your life and ignore the fact that objects get smaller into the distance, I'm going to say no. It's not philosophical. It's bullshit trickery done by globeheads, and all of them want to obfuscate this point entirely and make us believe that we live on a spinning sphere by excluding perspective and calling
Well,
it
how
curvature.
come plane surveying treats 300 miles as flat? What if this is a moot point?
Because it's flat.
Okay, but what if it's not? What if it's still? What if this whole holy obstruction argument is really a moot point, and it actually? What if the Earth is a ball, but they still don't treat any level of curvature until after 600 miles?
Who cares? Their object of sphericity has a fixed radius, which they assume, and it's not going to get smaller or bigger anytime soon.
The professionals look at it differently.
Do they? You telling me they're telling you that the Earth is changing size periodically, Issa?
No, they're holding on to the looming theory that I managed to find a way to completely disprove, but didn't really care.
These turbines aren't curving around any Earth. Just because you can see them from 11 miles away, falling away in line with perspective, does not mean that they are built on a curved Earth, and they must be. They must be if you're living on a curved Earth. If you can see them curving down the X, you can see them curving down the Z. If it's curved, and it ain't.
So, guys, I'm gonna drop for a moment so the plain truth can enter. I'm gonna watch football. So, good luck. I'll see you next time.
See you later.
Later, brother. Forgive me being a jerk. I'm always a jerk. I don't know what it is.
I know.
We are not a big agency. We are not a big educational institute. So we're trying to figure this by ourselves.
I'm gonna put down my concept in a hangout of my own to basically show you how easily you can disprove the looming theory, which otherwise is very hard to disprove because it's pure optics, and if you assume that it's all looming, then they can just keep hold of that. Except for that, then at the same time, the entire star heaven, which is supposedly visible around the globe, should also be looming at the horizons, and that was my whole point. So.
Where are you going?
Alternatively, you can just actually look at the picture that they're saying isn't really there, and just say, yeah, I actually can see that lighthouse and that building and that whatever else is in the picture that shouldn't be there and should be obscured by massive amounts of Earth curve based on mathematics alone and presupposition alone. You know, you can just ignore all that crap and just say, I see it because it's there. It's very, very simple to debunk these idiots when they assert that this is a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena. It isn't. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do, but if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!